I'm your old friend. She smiled seductively, and lust took over. Unexpected reunion. The crystalline walls of Nexus Station refracted starlight into rainbow patterns across the diplomatic reception hall. Mira Chen straightened her formal Earth Coalition uniform and suppressed a sigh. 3 years of representing humanity's interests across the galaxy had taught her that these functions were where the real work happened, not in the sterile conference rooms with their careful translations and recorded minutes. Ambassador Chen, your presence is requested by the Lyrian delegation. Mira nodded to her assistant and made her way through the crowd, mentally reviewing what she knew about Lyris. Resource-rich outer rim planet, recently opened diplomatic channels, culturally reserved but technologically advanced. Nothing in her briefings prepared her for who awaited her. Mira Chen, still punctual to a fault, I see. The voice hit Mira like a gravity shift, familiar yet impossibly distant. The Lyrian diplomat before her smiled with lips tinged a subtle shade of violet, characteristic of her species. Her skin had a faint purple luminescence that caught the light as she moved. Zara, Mira whispered, professionalism momentarily forgotten. Zara Vex? The very same. Zara's eyes, deep violet with flecks of silver, sparkled with amusement. Though it's Senior Envoy Vex now. It's been, 8 years since the Interspecies Academy? 8 years, 3 months, and 17 days, Mira's mind supplied traitorously. Not that she'd been counting the days since she'd last seen her academy roommate. The brilliant, enigmatic Lyrian who'd made those 2 years of diplomatic training both exhilarating and torturous. You look... Well, Mira managed, trying not to stare at how Zara had changed. Gone was the reserved student with uncertain gestures. This Zara moved with predatory grace, her traditional Lyrian robes flowing like liquid starlight. As do you, Ambassador. Zara gestured to a quiet alcove. Perhaps we could catch up. Unless Earth's policy on fraternization has changed. Some rules are worth bending, Mira replied, following Zara away from the crowd. The alcove overlooked the vast expanse of space, the distant nebula casting everything in a soft blue glow. Zara handed Mira a glass of iridescent liquid. Lyrian night bloom nectar. Still your favorite, I hope. Mira took a sip, memories flooding back. Late night studying, Zara teaching her Lyrian customs, the accidental brush of fingers that sent electricity through her body. You remembered? I remember everything about our time together, Zara said, her voice dropping to an intimate tone. Including what remained unsaid. Heat crept up Mira's neck. We were students from different worlds. There were boundaries. And now? Zara moved closer, her scent like rain on warm stone intoxicating. We're diplomats from different worlds. There are still boundaries. More complicated ones, Mira agreed, yet didn't step away. I've followed your career, you know, Zara said. The peace accord on Thalys Prime. The trade negotiations with the Arcturian Collective, impressive. I could say the same. First Lyrian to achieve senior envoy status before 30 cycles. Zara laughed softly. You have been watching me too. The station chimed, announcing the summit's commencement in 15 minutes. Reality intruded on their bubble of reconnection. I should prepare, Mira said reluctantly. Of course. Zara's fingers brushed Mira's wrist, seemingly accidental, yet deliberately lingering. But perhaps we could continue this discussion after the day's sessions. My quarters are in the Eastern Ring. Suite 12, Mira knew she should decline. The summit was too important. The political situation too delicate for personal entanglements. Yet the invitation hummed in her veins like a hyperdrive preparing to jump. For old time's sake, she found herself saying, I'll bring the Terran brandy. I'll provide the memories, Zara replied with a smile that promised far more than conversation. As they parted ways, Mira felt a familiar, dangerous thrill, the same one she'd buried 8 years ago when they'd said goodbye at graduation. Only now they weren't students bound by academy rules. They were representatives of their worlds playing a game where the stakes extended beyond their hearts to the very alliance they were here to build. Oh. Dangerous temptation. The summit's third day found Mira pacing her quarters, datapads scattered across her desk. The negotiations were deteriorating. Earth's insistence on mining rights in the Lyrian asteroid belt had created tension that even the most skilled translators couldn't smooth over. Yet it wasn't the diplomatic impasse keeping Mira awake. It was the memory of the previous night. Zara's quarters had been a study in controlled opulence. flowing fabrics in deep purples and midnight blues, illuminated by bioluminescent Lyrian crystals. They'd started with professional conversation, 2 glasses of brandy, and careful distance. By the 3rd glass, they sat closer, reminiscing about their academy days. Remember Professor Talman's face when you corrected his Arcturian syntax? Mira laughed. I was terrified he'd fail me, Zara admitted, her fingers absently tracing patterns on the couch between them. You were the only one who defended me. Your translation was correct. His wasn't. Always so principled, Zara murmured, her violet eyes reflecting the starlight. Is that why you've been avoiding me since our first night here? Principles. The question hung between them like a suspended droplet of mercury. Heavy, reflective, potentially toxic. I'm not avoiding you, Mira lied. The negotiations are complex. They are, Zara agreed, sliding closer. But that's not why your heart rate increases when I enter a room. I can see it, you know. My species perceives heat signatures, Mira swallowed. That seems an unfair advantage. I'll share a secret to even the field. Zara took Mira's hand, placing it against her chest where 2 hearts beat in rapid tandem. Lyrians only experience dual heart rhythm in moments of extreme stress or attraction. That touch had broken something in Mira, a dam of restraint held intact for 8 years. Their kiss tasted of brandy and forbidden sweetness. Zara's lips cool at first, but warming beneath her own. What followed was a dance of discovery and remembrance. Hands exploring the familiar made new, whispered confessions between increasingly desperate kisses. Now, in the cold light of the station's artificial morning, Mira stared at her reflection. The woman who gazed back had made a critical error in judgment, one that could compromise everything if discovered. Her communicator chimed with a message. Private channel encrypted. Eastern observation deck. 20 minutes. Come alone. Z Prudence demanded she ignore it. Duty required her full attention on the failing negotiations. Yet 15 minutes later, she found herself taking the less traveled corridors toward the eastern section. The observation deck was deserted, as most diplomats were gathered for the morning sessions. Zara stood silhouetted against the panoramic viewpoint, the gas giant below them casting her in amber light. You shouldn't be here, Zara said without turning. Neither should I. Then why are we? Mira approached, maintaining a professional distance. Because I've spent 8 years wondering. Zara finally faced her, vulnerability visible beneath her diplomatic poise, wondering if what I felt at the academy was one-sided, if what I sensed between us was real. It was real, Mira admitted. It is real, but it's also impossible. Is it? Zara closed the distance between them. Or have we been conditioned to believe that? Your species and mine are compatible in every way that matters. It's not biology that concerns me, Mira said. It's duty, responsibility. Always the perfect diplomat. Zara's fingers traced Mira's jawline. But even diplomats have hearts. Hearts that could compromise entire worlds if they're followed blindly. Not blindly, Zara whispered, with eyes wide open. Their second kiss was different, not a release of long-suppressed desire, but a deliberate choice, a decision made with full awareness of its consequences. When Zara's hand slipped beneath Mira's uniform jacket, exploring with delicate precision, Mira knew they had crossed a boundary from which there was no diplomatic retreat. Later, as they lay tangled in the privacy of Zara's quarters, the purple glow of Zara's skin illuminating the darkness, Mira traced the elegant curve of her lover's spine. The Terran delegation is watching me, she confessed. There are rumors about us already. The Lyrian Council has spies everywhere, Zara replied, her voice tight. My mentor warned me this morning to remember my priorities. And what are your priorities? Mira asked, dreading the answer. Zara's violet eyes held hers in the dim light. For centuries, my people have isolated themselves, fearing contamination from other cultures. I was sent here to protect Lyrian interests, yes, but also to begin changing that narrative. Her fingers entwined with Mira's. How can I advocate for connection between our worlds if I deny the most profound connection I've ever experienced? The mining rights dispute, Mira began, is a symptom of fear, not the disease itself, Zara finished. Perhaps we need to approach it differently. What are you suggesting? Meet me tomorrow. Not here, too many eyes. There's a maintenance airlock on level 7. It leads to an external observation platform. That's restricted, Mira said. Zara smiled, her lips curving with mischief. Only technically. I've acquired access codes. Sometimes diplomacy requires creative channels. As Mira slipped back to her quarters in the station's artificial night cycle, she knew she was playing a dangerous game, one where her heart and her duty pulled in opposite directions with increasing force. Yet for the first time in her diplomatic career, she wondered if perhaps they could be aligned after all. Celestial shadows. The external observation platform jutted from Nexus Station like a crystalline teardrop, offering an unfiltered view of the galaxy. Unlike the station's other viewing areas, this one had no diplomatic function, just maintenance access and a transparent dome reinforced against micrometeorites and radiation. How did you get these codes? Mira asked as Zara's fingers danced across the airlock panel. Let's just say not all Lyrians agree with our isolationist history, Zara replied, the door hissing open. Some of us have maintained unofficial networks. The platform was small, intimate. Stars stretched in all directions, unobscured by the station's usual filters. Beneath them, the swirling storms of the gas giant Nexus orbited created ever-changing patterns of amber and turquoise. It's breathtaking, Mira whispered. This is how space should be experienced, Zara said, not through diplomatic filters and ceremonial viewports, raw, real. She turned to Mira, her purple skin luminescent against the backdrop of stars. Like us. They shared a moment of perfect silence, the universe spread before them like an offering. Then Zara activated a small device that projected a three-dimensional map of the disputed asteroid belt. I've been studying the geological surveys, she said. There's something the Lyrian Council isn't sharing with the delegation, and I suspect your Earth Coalition is equally selective with information. Mira frowned. What do you mean? The asteroids Earth wants mining rights to. They contain more than just rare minerals. Zara manipulated the projection, highlighting specific regions. There are trace elements here that interact with Lyrian biotechnology in unique ways. Ways that could revolutionize both our medical sciences if studied collaboratively, rather than exploited unilaterally. Why wouldn't the Council share this? The same reason your coalition emphasizes minerals but not their applications, control. Zara's eyes met Mira's. But imagine if we proposed a joint research initiative instead of competing mining operations. Mira stared at the rotating projection, mind racing through implications. A partnership instead of a territory dispute. Exactly. Zara stepped closer, her scent mingling with the clean, recycled air. It would require trust, transparency. Things in short supply between our worlds. Perhaps, Zara agreed. But not between us. When they kissed this time, it felt different, not just passion but purpose. Their bodies pressed together beneath the canvas of stars, hands exploring with increasing urgency. Zara's skin radiated a gentle warmth that intensified wherever Mira touched, the purple glow brightening with her arousal. I've never shared myself with a non-Lyrian before, Zara confessed between kisses. Is it permitted? Mira asked, suddenly uncertain. Zara's laugh was low, musical. It's not forbidden, just unprecedented in my family line. Her fingers deftly unfastened Mira's uniform. I find I like making history. They made love against the backdrop of the universe, the gas giant's light painting their entwined forms in shifting colors. For precious moments, they weren't representatives of worlds in negotiation, but simply two beings finding connection amid the vastness of space. Afterward, as they lay wrapped in Zara's thermal cloak, Mira traced the intricate patterns that naturally occurred on Zara's purple skin, swirls that seemed to mimic the nebulae visible through the dome. If we present this joint research proposal, Mira said, there will be resistance. From both sides, Zara agreed. Change is never easy. And us? What happens to us when this summit ends? Zara was silent for a long moment. There's something else I haven't told you. She sat up, suddenly serious. The reason I have access to this platform, these codes, I'm part of a progressive movement within Lyrian society. We believe isolation has stagnated our culture. We need exchange, connection with other species. You're talking about politics now, not diplomacy, Mira said carefully. The line between them is thinner than most admit. Zara took Mira's hands. Come with me to Lyris when this summit concludes. There's a place, a sanctuary moon, where our movement gathers. Protected, private. We could work on the research proposal there, away from the pressures of our respective delegations. The invitation hung in the air, tempting and terrifying. Mira had never deviated from her assigned diplomatic paths, never considered placing personal desires above professional obligations. That would be unauthorized, she said, though her heart raced at the possibility. Sometimes, Zara replied, her violet eyes intense in the starlight. The most important diplomatic work happens outside official channels. She kissed Mira softly. Think about it. We have 3 days before the summit concludes. As they returned through the airlock, carefully timing their re-entry to avoid station security, Mira felt the weight of decision pressing upon her. She had spent her life representing Earth's interests across the galaxy. Now, for the first time, she wondered if those interests might best be served by following her heart into uncharted territory. Neither of them noticed the small surveillance drone that detached from the station's hull, recording their departure with its unblinking eye. OPO. Divided loyalties, Ambassador Chen. A word. Director Harlow's voice stopped Mira as she prepared to enter the final negotiation session. His weathered face betrayed nothing, but after 15 years in diplomatic service, Mira recognized the controlled stillness of someone containing explosive information. Walk with me, he said, not a request. They moved away from the conference area to a secure communication room. Once inside, Harlow activated privacy protocols and turned to face her. 17 hours ago, station security detected unauthorized access to the external observation platform. He placed a data crystal on the table between them. Care to explain? Mira maintained her diplomatic composure, though her pulse quickened. Sir, Before you answer, Harlow interrupted, understand that I'm asking as someone who's invested considerable political capital in your career. He activated the crystal. A holographic display flickered to life, showing grainy footage of 2 figures entering the airlock, their faces indistinct but their uniforms clearly identifiable, as Earth Coalition and Lyrian Diplomatic Corps. The surveillance drone malfunctioned shortly after this, Harlow continued. Convenient timing, almost as if someone knew exactly how to disable it temporarily. Mira weighed her options. Denial would only postpone the inevitable. Director, my personal connections. Stop. Harlow's hand sliced through the air. This isn't about your personal connections. It's about this. The display shifted to show Zara speaking with a hooded figure in a rarely used cargo bay. The timestamp indicated it occurred just 3 hours ago. Senior Envoy Vex has been meeting with known members of the Lyrian Progressive Front. Harlow's voice hardened, a political faction that some consider dangerously radical. The LPF advocates for cultural exchange and open borders, Mira countered. Hardly radical concepts. They also advocate for complete restructuring of Lyrian governance and have been implicated in data breaches across 3 star systems, Harlow replied. And now, the Lyrian delegation is suddenly interested in modifying their negotiation position, hours after you and Envoy Vex had your unauthorized meeting. The implication hung in the air between them. Sir, if the Lyrians are willing to compromise, isn't that what we want? What we want, Ambassador, is to know if Earth's lead negotiator has been compromised. Harlow leaned forward. Are you being manipulated, Mira? Has your judgment been clouded by sentiment? The question cut deep because Mira had asked herself the same thing over sleepless nights. Was Zara using their connection? Was the joint research proposal merely a cover for something else? I believe in Zara's integrity, she said finally, and I believe the proposal we're developing benefits both worlds. Harlow studied her face. You're being reassigned. Effective immediately. What? The negotiations will continue under Deputy Ambassador Quan. You'll depart for Earth on the next transport. Harlow's expression softened slightly. This isn't punitive, Mira. It's protective for you and for Earth's interests. Director, please. The Joint Research Initiative could revolutionize both our medical technologies. If you just look at the data, the decision is made. Harlow stood. You have 4 hours to transfer your credentials and 6 to clear the station. Alone in her quarters, Mira stared at her packed belongings. Everything she owned in this part of the galaxy fit into a single regulation case. 17 years of service reduced to standardized essentials. Her secure communicator chimed, a channel she'd never seen before. Cargo Bay 9. Now. Critical. Zed. Every instinct honed through years of diplomatic training screamed caution. This could be a trap, an attempt to further compromise her position. Yet Mira found herself moving through the station's service corridors, security badge providing just enough clearance to avoid detection. Cargo Bay 9 was dimly lit, used primarily for waste processing. The recycled air carried a faint metallic tang. Zara emerged from behind a processing unit, her customary diplomatic poise replaced by urgent intensity. "They're monitoring the primary communication channels," she said without preamble. "The Lyrian Council knows about us, about the proposal. They've ordered me back to Lyris for consultation." "Harlow is sending me to Earth," Mira replied. "It's over, Zara." "No." Zara grabbed Mira's hands. "It's only beginning. My contacts confirmed what we suspected. The asteroid belt contains biological compounds that could create medical advances beyond anything either of our species has developed independently. Zara, listen to me. Harlow showed me footage of you meeting with the LPF. He claims they're radicals, possibly involved in data breaches." Something flashed across Zara's violet eyes. Fear, guilt, or something else Mira couldn't interpret. "The LPF is complicated," she admitted, "like any movement for change. But our core mission is peaceful. The alleged breaches were information liberation, releasing scientific data the Council kept restricted." "You should have told me everything," Mira said, pulling her hands away. "Would you have listened? Or would your Earth-centered perspective have immediately categorized us as dissidents?" Zara's voice rose slightly, her purple skin pulsing with heightened emotion. "The Lyrian Council and your Earth Coalition are mirror images. Mira, both clutching power, rationing progress, fearing what might happen if their people saw beyond constructed boundaries." A security drone hummed past the cargo bay entrance. Both women froze until it passed. "My shuttle leaves for Lyris in 40 minutes, Zara whispered. "Come with me. We can present our findings to the LPF leadership directly. They have resources, scientific facilities on the sanctuary moon." "You're asking me to defect," Mira said, the word heavy between them. "I'm asking you to see beyond artificial loyalty to a system that treats scientific discovery as a weapon," Zara countered. "The medical applications alone could save millions on both our worlds." Mira closed her eyes, the weight of decision pressing on her. Everything she'd worked for, everything she'd believed in, balanced against a truth she couldn't deny. Her connection with Zara had shown her possibilities beyond the rigid structures of interstellar diplomacy. "If I go with you," she said slowly, "I can never return to Earth service." "If you don't," Zara replied, "we may never know what we could have discovered, about the asteroids, or about us." The station's announcement system chimed overhead, calling final passengers for the Lyris shuttle. In the harsh cargo bay lighting, Zara's purple skin seemed to shimmer with suppressed emotion. "Decide, Mira," she whispered, "not as Ambassador Chen, as yourself." Stars aligned. The sanctuary moon of Nerith hung like an opalescent jewel in Lyris's shadow, its atmosphere swirling with prismatic clouds. Unlike the sterile environments of diplomatic stations, Nerith pulsed with life. A carefully cultivated biosphere where Lyrian scientists pursued research outside the Council's restrictive oversight. 6 weeks had passed since Mira made her choice. 6 weeks of exile, discovery, and transformation. "The preliminary results are promising," Dr. Vale said. His aged purple skin faded to a soft lavender. The senior scientist gestured to the holographic display where molecular structures rotated slowly. "The Earth bacteriological samples you provided interact with Lyrian enzyme compounds in ways we never anticipated." "Creating a regenerative matrix," Mira observed, studying the simulation. "Could it work on neural tissue?" "Theoretically," Zara said, entering the laboratory. "Which is why the Coalition and Council both wanted exclusive control." She placed a data crystal on the workstation. "And why they're now hunting us with increasing urgency." The crystal activated, displaying intercepted communications. Earth Coalition vessels had been deployed to the Lyris system, officially for diplomatic security concerns. The Lyrian defense fleet had responded by mobilizing near the asteroid belt. "They're using us as an excuse," Mira said quietly. "Harlow never cared about my relationship with you. He wanted a pretext to militarize the negotiations." And the Council is equally culpable, Zara added. Our dangerous radical ideas provide perfect justification for rejecting collaboration. Dr. Vale's weathered face creased with concern. The window for peaceful resolution is closing. If military assets engage near the asteroids, the unspoken conclusion hung heavy in the air. Conflict between Earth and Lyris wouldn't just destroy their personal futures, it would devastate the potential of their medical discovery and possibly trigger wider interstellar tensions. We need leverage, Mira said, diplomatic training asserting itself, something neither side can ignore. That night, in the privacy of their quarters overlooking Nereth's luminescent forests, Mira and Zara lay entwined, their bodies fitting together in what now felt like cosmic inevitability. The purple glow of Zara's skin cast gentle shadows across the room. There might be a way, Zara said, her fingers tracing patterns across Mira's shoulder. But it's dangerous for both of us. More dangerous than our current status as diplomatic fugitives? Mira smiled wryly. The LPF has a quantum communication array, undetectable, untraceable. We could broadcast our research findings simultaneously to both worlds. Every research institution, every medical facility, every civilian network. Mira sat up. Information liberation on an unprecedented scale. Once the potential is public knowledge, neither government can suppress it, Zara continued. They'd be forced to acknowledge the benefits of collaboration. Or accelerate their conflict to control the source, Mira countered. Zara's violet eyes held steady. That's the gamble, but I believe in the people of both our worlds, even if I've lost faith in our governments. 3 days later, they stood before the LPF's ruling council in the heart of the sanctuary complex. The 7 Lyrian elders, all with skin in various purple hues marking their age and lineage, listened as Mira and Zara presented their plan. What you propose violates every protocol of interstellar diplomacy, said Elder Thave, the most conservative of the group. Current protocols have brought us to the brink of conflict, Mira replied. Sometimes progress requires breaking with tradition. You're not Lyrian, Elder Nyx observed, her ancient eyes studying Mira. Yet you would risk everything for this cause. For truth, Mira corrected, and for a future where collaboration transcends borders. Her hand found Zara's, their fingers intertwining. Human and Lyrian, warm brown against luminescent purple. Elder Mev, the eldest of the council, leaned forward. In all my 300 cycles, I've observed that governments fear 2 things above all else: losing control and being exposed as ineffective. Your plan threatens both. Yes, Zara acknowledged. A smile creased the ancient Lyrian's face. Good, the quantum array is yours. 48 hours of feverish work followed. Mira compiled their research into formats accessible to human understanding, while Zara translated for Lyrian comprehension. Dr. Vale and his team prepared demonstrable proof-of-concept applications. The night before the broadcast, a scout ship brought alarming news. Earth Coalition forces had established a blockade around the asteroid belt. The Lyrian Defense Fleet had issued an ultimatum: withdraw or face consequences. We're out of time, Mira said, reviewing the final transmission package. If conflict erupts, both sides will be too committed to back down regardless of what we reveal. Zara's hands worked steadily over the quantum array's controls. Then we add one final element. She looked up, determination hardening her features. Ourselves. The broadcast began at dawn, Nereth time. Across Earth and Lyris, communication channels were suddenly flooded with scientific data, molecular analyses, and medical projections, the culmination of 6 weeks of collaborative research. But unlike typical data dumps, this one began with 2 faces side by side, a human woman and a purple-skinned Lyrian. I am Mira Chen, former ambassador of the Earth Coalition, Mira began, her diplomatic training evident in every measured word. And I am Zara Vex, former senior envoy of Lyris, Zara continued. We speak to you from the sanctuary moon of Nereth, as representatives of no government but as advocates for a truth too important to suppress. Together, they explained the potential of the asteroid compounds, the medical breakthroughs possible through collaboration, and the artificial barriers erected by fear and control. But this broadcast isn't just about scientific discovery, Mira said. It's about possibility. The possibility that beings from different worlds can find connection, Zara added. The possibility that cooperation yields greater rewards than competition. Their hands joined on screen, a simple gesture that spoke volumes. "We stand as living proof that Lyrians and humans are stronger together than apart," Mira continued. "Just as our research proves that our biological differences, when combined, create healing rather than division. To the governments of Earth and Lyris," Zara's voice strengthened, "we issue our own ultimatum. Stand down your military forces. Embrace collaboration, or be remembered as those who chose conflict over a future that could save millions." The choice, Mira concluded, belongs not just to those in power, but to all who witness this message and choose what future they demand. The transmission ended, the quantum array powering down. In the sudden silence of the broadcast chamber, Mira and Zara stood in the eye of the storm they'd created. "What now?" Dr. Vall asked. "Now," Mira said, drawing Zara close. "We wait to see if the stars align." 3 days passed in tense anticipation. Then, as suddenly as it had formed, the Earth blockade withdrew to a monitoring position. The Lyrian fleet similarly pulled back. Diplomatic channels reopened with a single joint statement. Negotiations would resume on neutral ground, with the explicit aim of establishing a collaborative research initiative. On Nereth's highest observation point, beneath an alien sky swirling with colors no Earth poet had words to describe, Mira and Zara received the news with cautious optimism. "It's only a beginning," Mira cautioned, ever the diplomat. "Beginnings are powerful things," Zara replied, her purple skin luminous in Lyris's reflected light. "Like the moment I first saw you again on Nexus Station. Do you regret any of it?" Mira asked, gesturing to the sanctuary that was now their home. Neither fully Earth nor Lyris, but something new. Zara's violet eyes reflected the stars above them. In ancient Lyrian belief, certain souls are crafted from the same dying star scattered across the cosmos, only to find their way back together across impossible distances. Her hands, violet against brown, framed Mira's face with gentle reverence. "How could I regret finding my celestial echo?" As their lips met beneath the light of distant suns, Mira thought of the unlikely path that had brought them here, from academy students to diplomatic representatives to exiles to, perhaps, the architects of a new understanding between their worlds. Some might call it treason, others revolution. But in this moment, with Zara's arms around her and the first tentative steps toward peace unfolding across the stars, Mira recognized it for what it truly was, love in its most cosmic form, a force that, like the universe itself, knew no boundaries and followed no laws but its own inexorable gravity, pulling distant bodies into perfect, inevitable alignment.